Breaking news, South Carolina declines an invite to the NIT Tournament. Was it the right or wrong move? We talk about it next. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler, and I want to say thank you to everyone making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we are a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode, it's an interesting one because of the news that just broke, and we're going to get into it here shortly. Before we do, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor for today's episode, which is FanDuel. Now, you guys have heard me talk about FanDuel before. You're going to hear me talk about them again because it's March Madness and time to shine, and you can do so with our friends at FanDuel. What is that? FanDuel, right now, new customers are getting, if you win your first $5 bet, you will win $200 in free bonus bets afterwards. Just go to FanDuel.com and sign up today. All right, let's get into today's show. And it's interesting because you've got a very odd situation. And I'm not even right off the bat. I am going to probably do what I do a lot of times, which is start talking about it and then see where I end up. And that will, once I kind of process it through that's when I'll arrive to whether or not I think it was a good decision or a bad decision, because I don't know. But LaMont Paris and South Carolina decide to decline their invitation to the NIT Tournament. Off the bat, I feel like it's a good decision. But let's talk about it and talk about the pros and cons and everything in between. It seems like an odd decision, right? There's a Coach K quote that I love, which is if they're giving away a trophy, I want to win it. The NIT tournament is, it kind of gets like crapped on because it's like, oh, well, it's not the NCAA tournament. It's a not invited tournament. It's whatever else. I don't mind the NCAA tournament because it's kind of cool. You get games at home. It's I think you play the Final Four in Madison Square Garden. Like, it's a cool experience. And like, listen, for some teams that either just get left out, which is not South Carolina in this case, but teams that just get left out of the tournament, or teams that are kind of on the fringe of they had bad seasons, but it's a way to end on a high note and then propel you to next season. Georgia is a perfect example of that. Georgia is a perfect example of that. Last year, on the outside looking into the NCAA tournament, they make it to the Final Four. I think they lost to Xavier or something like that, but they made it to the Final Four, I believe, of the NIT tournament. That's pretty cool. Like that is something you can hang your hat on in the early stages of a new tenured coach. Now, I think that might be the first place to start in terms of why the decision was made. If LaMont Paris goes into this year where South Carolina had a bad season a year ago, struggled this year, and then now are going to go into a postseason where it's like, you want to continue on, you want to continue building. It's just an interesting scenario with South Carolina that you don't have in a ton of places with new coaches or newer coaches where, guys, in this situation, LaMont Paris went 13-5 in the SEC last year, was SEC Coach of the Year, and then you took a step back. Now, I hate saying take a step back because I think there's still a lot of stuff that went well for that program this year, considering what they had. But, yeah, they took a step back. I mean, there's no way to look at that record and not think they didn't take a step back. So, fine with saying that, right? The situation with them turning it down. Now, as somebody that works in this industry and also covers the SEC and then also covers LSU for my work over there at ESPN Baton Rouge, like right after this happened, and I thought about LaMont Paris, and then my first reaction was to reach out to, my boss and everyone over there associated with LSU and say, like, hey, there's only two teams that didn't get in from the conference. Like, what's LSU's move? Like, what are they going to do? And they immediately responded, like, that's the same decision they've made. So now LSU is also going to follow suit and decline an invite to the NIT. Now, here's the reasons I got for LSU. Okay, now this is not for South Carolina. This is for LSU. The reasons were injury situation, and it puts them in a bad spot numbers-wise. Now, my first reaction, too, with South Carolina was, and I wanted them to play for some of the seniors, right? Like I hate that those guys are done. I hate that Collin Murray-Boyles' career could be done. I mean, that part to me kind of sucks. Now, in this, so like seniors, Jamari Thomas, Jacoby Wright, Benjamin Bosmans, Verdonk are out of eligibility. Now, Nick Pringle can return for another season because of the new stances he played in the junior college. But you're looking at potentially 5 guys who will not ever suit up in the garnet and black again. That part kind of sucks. I mean, like, listen, it felt like it was hard to see Jamari Thomas and Jacoby Wright ever be like at their best at the same time. It felt like one of them was always good or the other one was always good. But like it was rare this season in a season of over 30 games where both of them were playing at their peak. And now part of that was injury, and part of that was just like, just the way the offense ran with them in it. But when you have potential 5 guys that are going to be out of it, I mean, that kind of sucks. Like they might not suit up again. Now, but here's the other part of it, okay? Now, I would love to see Nick Pringle come back and play another year. I really would. I think he's good enough to be a consistent force, like for you defensively, especially. I think defensively he would be great. Now, it's also, in the front court where you're going to need some help in size-wise, especially with what you're losing if Collin Murray-Boyles decides to go pro. I'm going to make you a bet right now. I bet you the day that Collin Murray-Boyles goes pro, I finally say his name right without stuttering. Just perfect timing. But Pringle coming back. Now, Pringle is not ever going to be a guy that's going to like spot up and be able to hit like mid-range jumpers. And like, he's got to be close to the rim. He can be a good rebounder, and he's an excellent defender when he's on his game. He got better at free throws, which is big for him offensively, considering that's where a lot of his points come from. And he increased a lot this year. This was his best year since he's been in college with free throws. I hate to see Jamari Thomas and Jacoby Wright go out like this. That part sucks. And like, that part really sucks for me. But here's the thing I keep coming back to. If you're LaMont Paris and you want to get this thing right, you cannot waste 3 weeks of downtime without not just recruiting, but evaluating. That's why I think he made the right decision. I really do. I think he made the right decision in terms of turning down the NIT, because I think that in this upcoming season, there is so much riding on the success of the Gamecocks and LaMont Paris doing a good job coaching. There's so much riding on next year. You have got to get started right now. You have got to get started right now. It is in my opinion, the right move. It sucks that we don't get to see those guys dress up in the garnet and black again. It sucks that we don't get to see, a potential home game for a team that, listen, at times gave you some really good moments. They played not even just on like the moral victories, right? Like not even just when they played Auburn close or A&M close or took Mississippi State to overtime. Like you beat at least 3 off the top of my head tournament teams. Clemson was a 5 seed. You beat Texas, who's an 11 seed. You beat Arkansas, and you beat a couple of those teams like a drum. So, but I think that the best thing that you can do if you're LaMont Paris in this basketball program is start building on next year's success right now. And we're going to get into how he does that up next. Before we do, I want to tell you about our newest friends. All right, we got some new friends we made. Not the easiest thing to do in this day and age. Our new friends at Factor, okay? Now, Factor, you guys have heard me talk about it before. Eating healthy doesn't have to be complicated. With Factor, you get chef-made, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, so you can fuel your body without the hassle of cooking. Factor meals arrive fresh, never frozen, and with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences each and every week. You can customize your menu to fit your goals, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto, and more. Now listen, I love when convenience meets nutrition. I love how Factor keeps you on track with healthy and delicious meals without the time-consuming prep. There's also variety in taste. The Korean beef bowl, the Korean Parmesan chicken are some of my favorites. And the taste it seems like it's homemade, but with none of the effort, and I love that more than anything. Now, eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast. Use the code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Make sure you go visit our friends at Factor today. Now, before we move on, I want to give a shout out to one more of our new friends at Supply House, okay? Supply House, it's a new friend we have here on the pod. So make sure you show them some love. Get the supplies you need from the site that makes skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. All right, that's supplyhouse.com. This is Locked On Gamecocks, and also we will be right back. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to continue to talk about this decision from LaMont Paris. Okay, so let's get back to it and start talking about the decision. Here's why I think it's a big deal, okay? I want to do a deep dive on this, and I'll probably do it later in the week. It's a big week to talk about this. Like, we are recording this Sunday night. It's an immediate reaction. My plan was to talk about the baseball series and then what's happening at 8:30, where the South Carolina women's team is going to find out where they land in the women's tournament as well. This seems like a little bit more pertinent and something we want to talk about first. So we'll do that show tomorrow morning, and we'll have a good time with it and all that good stuff. Here's the thing I keep coming back to, and I want to do this deep dive on you look at some of these players, okay? And I know that a lot of South Carolina fans didn't necessarily go through the SEC tournament and watch all 5 days. I did because it's my job, and I love it. It's one of my favorite times of year. I think it's great. But that being said, oh, my God, they came back and lost. I just got the baseball score news. That sucks. Oh, that sucks. 5-3 lead in the eighth, and we lose 6-5. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's episode. Anyway, but going through the SEC tournament, and you guys know this more than ever, especially talking about football, and some of the players that come to South Carolina for football, we talk about it all the time. Rocket Sanders, huge deal, right? Kyle Kennard, huge deal. Both transfer portal guys. You went into the portal this year, did a tremendous job with some of the talent evaluations. That last word is the most important part, evaluations. In football, it's different. You've got 134 FBS programs in the country that you can go look at and say, here's who's in the portal. There's over 365 college basketball, just Division I college basketball schools, or in Division I college basketball, 365. That is a massive, massive well that you have to go through to look at different talents and see who you want to bring in. Now, here's the thing. In football, you have 105 players now on your roster, where it used to be 85. So, I don't know the math on it completely. Basketball, you got 12 to 15 players, right? So it's not like a ton of people that you're bringing in. Now, obviously, you're bringing in a freshman potential phenom. If you guys have been keeping up with this kid, Eli Ellis, who's been awesome, and just seems like he goes viral every couple of days for his antics and scoring. And I shouldn't say antics to lead with. It's his overall talent, but that's a kid coming in with your freshman class, right? You're losing potentially 5 guys. Let's say they lose 4 for sure, because I do think CMB is going to leave. You lose 3 seniors that are done with eligibility. You've got at least 4 spots potentially that you can bring in new people through the portal. Now, with 360-something teams and however many spots. I don't know the total number of basketball players that are going to enter the portal. I do know this. It's a massive, massive pool of players. You have less staff and assistants and analysts in basketball more than anything, right? You have less staff for sure than you do for football. So trying to recruit and evaluate that talent, that is a uphill battle in terms of trying to key in on certain guys, right? But I look at the SEC tournament, and I look at Chaz Lanier, who was at North Florida last year, Walter Clayton, who was at Iona, Mark Sears was at Ohio, Janai Broom was at Morehead State, Chad Baker-Mazara was a JUCO kid. I mean, Collin Murray-Boyles, Nick Pringle, those are all guys that transferred into this program. Like, now more than ever, there's such a good chance to go out. Chris Youngblood's a guy that played at Alabama. He's a former guy from FAU. There's another former guy from FAU that's starting, or not starting, but I don't think it's Richard. It's the other kid, Elijah Morse, I think, that's getting a ton of playing time. And he's also a kid from FAU. FAU, if you remember, made a pretty deep run in the NCAA tournament either last year or the year before. But my point is, now is the time. If you were LaMont Paris, it would be awesome to make a run in the NIT. But as you guys know, and I know, if we're being honest and objective, like if we're truly being honest and objective, you know and I know that if he goes and wins that thing, that's cool. You don't really care as much as you do about being good next year. So if that's the case, then the answer and the writing's on the wall. Start evaluating, figure out some key pieces to bring in, and go get them. You've already heard that you're going to have more resources at your disposal this year. You already have, coming July 1st, the $20.5 million you're going to get from the, what do you call it? $20.5 million from the collective and all that kind of stuff. I think that the main point here, if you are Lamont Paris in South Carolina, is this is such a massive, massive offseason for you to move forward. You've got some good pieces on that team. You got some good pieces coming back, and you need to have some more good pieces coming in. We don't know what CMB is going to do, and if he comes back, it would be they might throw a parade. I mean, they might throw a parade down in UG. I don't know. But I do know this. Right now, for the next 3 weeks, your focus and attention and effort, and again, your focus should not be monopolized with, man, we really got a game plan for Southeast Missouri State that we got in the first round of the NIT or whatever. It needs to be, we need to find a new point guard. We need to find new guys in the backcourt, new guys in the front court. You got a lot of pieces you need to bring in. I mean, for real, what happened this year, it's understandable, but still unacceptable. And I think Lamont Paris knows that. And you want to improve going into next year. So now's the time to do it. So that is all for today's show. We will be back tomorrow. Before we go, I do want to remind you real quick, March Madness is coming up. So now is the best time of year. It's no better time than getting over at FanDuel with our good friends at FanDuel. And listen, March Madness is here. FanDuel's giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra, or $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Now, personally, I love being able to, if I have my eye on a few underdogs this year, McNeese State plays Clemson, I'm going to be all over that. And FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. Listen, with tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on college hoops action all tournament long. All right, guys, that is all for today's show. Make sure you tune in tomorrow where we will break down not only the series loss to Oklahoma, as we found out during the show, but also the women's seed and where they will be, which they will carry through the next couple of weeks. Locked on Gamecocks continues tomorrow.